The mining station floated in the dark edge of space, far from any world, far from any rescue. It was quiet most of the time, except for the hum of engines and the soft ticking of cooling pipes. But one night, when everything was silent, a strange scratching noise started beneath the floor. Eli Ward, the only human engineer on the station, looked up from his work. He frowned, thinking it was just rats again, though he had never seen one here. The sound came again, soft, sharp, and moving fast under the metal plates. He hit the floor with a wrench and the sound stopped. He waited, holding his breath, but after a few seconds it began again, slower this time, almost like breathing. He leaned closer, listening carefully. The scratching turned into faint tapping, like something was trying to send a signal. Eli rubbed his temples, muttering, "You're just tired, man. It's nothing." He had been working double shifts for weeks, fixing power converters that kept failing for no reason. But deep down, something about that sound made his skin crawl. The next day, he told the station's security officer, but the man only laughed, saying, "Probably the metal cooling down, human. You people always hear ghosts in pipes." Eli forced a smile, though his gut told him otherwise that night. He heard it again, closer this time. The noise came from under his own bunk, slow, steady, like claws on steel. He sat up, grabbed his flashlight, and crouched down. A small vent under the bed was slightly open. Inside, he saw dust, a few wires, and something else. Tiny shavings of metal. Freshly scraped, he touched them. They were warm, as if cut by something alive. "Rats don't cut steel," he whispered, feeling his heartbeat quicken. For the next few days, the sound didn't stop. It followed him through the corridors, under storage crates, along the air ducts wherever he went. He could hear it faintly, always staying just out of sight. Sometimes when he stopped moving, it stopped too. Other times, it seemed to wait until he was alone before starting again. By the fourth night, Eli had enough. He returned to the same place where the sound was loudest, the cargo bay on Deck 9. He scanned the floor with his handheld sensor. At first, nothing appeared, but then faint energy spikes flashed on the screen. Biological readings, weak but real. "Not possible," he said under his breath. "No life forms are registered down here." He knelt down and tapped the floor. The scratching answered from beneath. Just once, Eli froze, his breath short. He tapped again. 2 times this time. The noise responded with 2 faint taps. His hands shook slightly as he whispered, "Are you alive down there?" There was silence, then a single tap. Like a yes, Eli's mind raced. There were rumors about hidden decks built before humans arrived, old alien structures covered and forgotten. Could it be one of those? He searched the floor carefully, brushing away dust and grime, until he found something strange. A circular metal hatch, no larger than a manhole, sealed tight with alien symbols burned into its edge. He leaned closer, tracing the markings with his fingers. They weren't from any known alien species. Not from the mining guild, not from the Federation. They looked older, maybe centuries old. "How did I never notice this before?" he whispered. He tried to call command again, but his comms suddenly filled with static. No one answered. The lights in the bay flickered for a moment. The scratching grew louder, faster, more desperate. Eli backed away, his heart pounding. Okay, you're not a rat," he muttered nervously. He picked up his wrench, the heavy one, and crouched near the hatch again. A small metallic voice, faint and broken, came from underneath. It wasn't words. Not yet, just a soft, glitching tone. Almost like someone trying to speak. Eli froze completely. Then it came again, clearer this time, still distorted but human-like. "Help, please." Every part of him went cold. He stared at the hatch, his brain refusing to believe what his ears just heard. No one else was on this deck at this hour, and no communication channel was open. He whispered shakily, "Who's down there?" No answer. Only the sound of faint breathing beneath the floor, followed by a small sob, a child's sob, soft and weak. Eli's chest tightened. He pressed his hand against the metal, feeling warmth coming from below. The hatch wasn't cold, it was pulsing faintly. Like it was alive, he pulled back his hand quickly. His eyes darted around the room, searching for cameras. If the command crew saw this, they'd think he'd lost his mind, but deep inside, he knew it wasn't his imagination. Something or someone was trapped below. He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow." I opened that hatch. The scratching stopped as if it understood. Then after a long, eerie silence, 3 soft knocks echoed from under the floor. Eli stood frozen, staring at the metal plate, somewhere deep within the station's old decks. Something waited, something alive, something hidden, and it had just answered him back. Eli barely slept that night, his mind spinning with the memory of the voice. Those words, soft, trembling. Help. Please, echoed in his head again and again. He tried to convince himself it was a dream. Maybe a glitch in the station's sound system. But deep down he knew the truth. Something was under that floor. And it wasn't a rat when morning came, or at least what passed for morning on the space station. Eli packed his toolkit. He slipped a small flashlight, a plasma cutter, and a portable scanner into his bag. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. No one believed him before, and if they found out he was opening a sealed hatch from an unknown source, they'd call security. The corridors were empty as he made his way back to Deck 9. The air was cold, the lights dim, and the hum of the engines echoed like a low heartbeat. He reached the same hatch and knelt down, brushing away the fine dust again. The alien markings shimmered faintly under his light. They looked almost alive, changing color when his hand passed over them. Eli frowned, whispering, "Some kind of sensor? Maybe a lock?" He scanned it and his device blinked red. Unknown alloy detected. No record in any database, he muttered, confused. He aimed the plasma cutter at the bolts and began slicing. The sound was sharp, metallic, filling the cargo bay with sparks. He expected the hatch to be thick and stubborn, but it opened too easily, almost like it wanted to open. A wave of warm, damp air escaped from below. It smelled of ozone, metal, and something faintly organic. Eli leaned closer, shining his light into the dark hole. At first he saw only pipes and cables. Then a flicker of blue light moved between them. Small and trembling, he froze, holding his breath. The blue light flickered again, and this time he saw it. A small hand, covered in silver dust, gripping a metal beam. "Hello?" he called softly. No answer. He climbed down carefully, boots landing on a narrow pipe. The air was thick and warm, his scanner beeping wildly. The life reading was faint but there, weak and irregular. He followed the sound of slow breathing until his light fell upon a small figure curled in the corner. It was a child or something like one, tiny, fragile, her body half covered in metal patches. Her skin glowed faintly under the dust, shades of blue, white and silver shifting with every breath. She held something tightly in her hands, a small cube-shaped device blinking weakly. When Eli moved closer, her eyes snapped open. They were large, bright, and filled with fear. She tried to move away but was too weak, collapsing again. Hey, it's okay," Eli said softly, setting his tools aside. "I'm not gonna hurt you." Her lips moved, trying to speak, but the words came out in broken static. Man," she whispered, her voice glitching like a broken radio. Eli's heart pounded. She knew the word. "Yes," he said gently. "I'm human." "You're safe now." She blinked slowly, confusion in her glowing eyes. Then she pointed weakly to the cube she was holding, whispering, "Don't let them take it." Eli reached for it, but she tightened her grip, shaking her head. The cube pulsed with dim blue light. He didn't understand, but he nodded anyway. "Okay, I won't, I promise." Her breathing was shallow, and her skin's glow began to fade. Eli panicked, reaching for his medkit. He didn't know if her biology was anything like human still. He gave her a small shot of oxygen and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. After a few minutes, her breathing steadied. Though she didn't wake again, he looked around the small chamber, walls lined with alien circuits. Wires leading nowhere. It wasn't a storage space. It was a hiding place as he climbed back up. Holding her carefully, he noticed something etched into the inner rim of the hatch. Letters in both alien and human script. Project Lumen. He stopped cold. That name. He'd seen it before in an old classified file from Earth. An experiment that was shut down decades ago after rumors of failed human-alien biointegration. No one ever confirmed it, but many said the subjects were destroyed. Now one of them was right here. Breathing faintly in his arms, he laid her gently on his bunk, dimmed the lights and locked the cabin door. Her skin shimmered softly, and for a moment, he could see faint circuits under her flesh like light moving through veins. He whispered, "What did they do to you?" The cube on her chest blinked once, and a small holographic pattern appeared above it. A star map, incomplete and shifting. Then a voice came from it, soft, broken, and terrified. "They will come finish what they started." Eli stared in shock. Who would come? The station crew? Something else? He sat beside her, feeling a chill run down his spine. Outside his window, space looked peaceful and still. But deep inside, he knew the silence would not last. Because whatever was hidden under that hatch was never meant to be found, and now, someone or something knew it had been opened. The hum of the station's engines filled Eli's quarters. Low and steady like a heartbeat, he sat beside the bunk, staring at the strange girl wrapped in his thermal blanket. Her breathing was slow but stable, and her skin no longer flickered with light. She looked peaceful now, almost human, if not for the faint silver lines tracing her temples and neck. Eli rubbed his tired eyes, whispering, "Who are you, kid?" The small cube she'd clutched before still lay beside her. Pulsing weakly, he had tried scanning it again, but his tools showed nothing. No known tech, no signal, no power source. It was as if the cube existed and didn't exist at the same time. He sighed, running his hand through his hair. The last thing he needed was to get caught hiding an unknown being in his quarters. He looked at the security camera above his door and muttered, "Sorry." Then he pulled out a screwdriver and quietly turned it toward the wall, just in case anyone was watching. The last time he reported something strange, they called him paranoid. If they saw this, if they saw her, they might not let him explain at all. Hours passed, and Eli began to drift off in his chair. Then a sound made him jump, a soft, shaky voice whispering, Man." He looked over quickly, and his heart skipped a beat. The girl was awake, sitting up weakly, her eyes glowing faintly blue. Her gaze darted around the room like a frightened animal. She pressed back against the wall, trembling. "Where, Eli lifted his hand slowly, trying to calm her. "You're safe," he said softly. "You were under the floor. I found you there. I'm not going to hurt you." Her breathing was fast, uneven, her voice glitching between tones. "Why, help me?" she asked, her head tilting slightly. Eli hesitated, searching for words. "Because you asked for help," he said finally. "And because no one else would." Her eyes softened for a moment, as if the answer confused her. Then she looked down at the cube in her hands and whispered, "They come soon, must hide." Eli frowned. "Who's coming?" She didn't answer, only shook her head. Clutching the cube tighter, the device flickered again, and Eli caught a glimpse of a faint holographic image, a burning planet, half mechanical, half organic, breaking apart in flames. He leaned closer, whispering, "What is that?" Her expression filled with sadness. "Home," she said quietly. Eli sat back, the words sinking into him. He wanted to ask more, but she closed her eyes and placed a trembling hand on his wrist. Her touch was warm, surprisingly human suddenly. His portable scanner on the table lit up and began running on its own. Numbers and strange codes scrolled across the screen. Eli blinked, confused. "What the?" The girl pulled her hand away, and the scanner shut off instantly. Her breathing slowed, and she whispered, Sorry, I fix." He realized she had somehow connected to the machine through touch, through thought. He wasn't sure. "You can control tech?" he asked softly. She nodded weakly. Oh, part of it." The words made his stomach twist. He remembered the words etched inside the hatch. Project Lumen. It wasn't just a code name, it was her name, her origin. A fusion of life and machine. A living system created by human and alien science. "Lumen," he said aloud, testing the word. Her eyes widened slightly. "You know that name?" Eli nodded slowly. "Heard of it once. A long time ago. They said it failed." She looked away, whispering, "They lied." Eli's mind raced. If she was really from that project, then her existence was supposed to be impossible. And if someone had hidden her under the floor, it meant they didn't just abandon the project, they were hiding its last survivor. Before he could ask more, the station's lights flickered. Then the intercom crackled to life. "Attention, crew," came the captain's voice. "Unauthorized energy readings detected on Deck 9. All engineers report immediately." Eli's blood ran cold. They must have detected the energy surge when she touched his scanner. He looked at her quickly. "They'll find you if they scan this room." The girl nodded slowly, her small hands trembling. "Please," she whispered. "Don't let them take me." Eli stood, pacing the room. If they caught her, they'd dissect her, erase every trace of what she was. He glanced at the air vent. Too small for him, but maybe big enough for her. He pulled it open. brushed the dust aside, and whispered, "You can hide here for now." She hesitated, then reached out, touching his hand again. "Human?" she whispered softly, her voice trembling. "Why, help?" Eli met her eyes and gave a small, tired smile. "Because you remind me of someone I couldn't save," he said quietly. The girl stared at him for a long moment, then crawled into the vent, clutching the cube. He covered the opening with a panel and sat back just as footsteps echoed outside. Heavy metallic boots getting closer. A knock hit the door. 3 sharp raps. "Engineer Ward," the security officer called. "We need to ask you a few questions." Eli swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "Yeah," he said, pretending to sound calm. "Just give me a second." The girl's soft whisper came from the vent, faint but clear. "They found me once. They'll kill me again." Eli looked toward the vent, his jaw tightening. Not this time, he thought. This time, he'd fight to keep her safe, no matter who came for her. The knock on Eli's door echoed like thunder inside his chest. "Engineer Ward," the voice repeated, firmer now. "Open the door." He forced a calm breath, wiped sweat from his forehead and said, "Yeah, just finishing a system check." Behind the wall, the girl hid inside the air vent, small and silent, clutching the glowing cube close to her chest. Eli could hear the faint hum of the cube even from here, like a quiet heartbeat pulsing through metal. He opened the door slowly, and 3 security officers stood there. Their armor gleamed silver under the flickering lights, their scanners in hand. The lead officer gave a short nod. "Routine check. We detected strange power readings on this deck. You seen anything unusual?" Eli forced a tired laugh. "On this junk station? Everything's unusual." The officer didn't smile, just walked past him into the room. Eli's pulse quickened as they scanned the corners, the bed, the table. Each beep of the scanner sounded like a death sentence. When one officer moved toward the vent, Eli's stomach twisted. "Hey," he said quickly, stepping forward. "Careful there, that vent leaks coolant gas. You'll fry your scanner." The officer frowned, took a step back and nodded. "Noted." After a tense minute, their devices beeped green. "No readings detected. Looks clear," one muttered. But the lead officer didn't move, his eyes fixed on Eli. "Command wants to see you," he said. Eli's heart sank. "Now?" "Now!" They escorted him down the corridor toward the control deck. Every step felt heavier than the last. The captain stood by the main console, hands behind his back, face cold as steel. "Ward," he said flatly, "you've been near Deck 9 last night. Correct?" Eli nodded carefully. "I do my rounds there." "Maintenance work?" The captain's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe you can explain why sensors picked up an unregistered lifeform signature directly beneath your position?" Eli's throat went dry. "I don't know." He lied smoothly. "Probably a glitch. These sensors misread static all the time." The captain leaned closer, his voice dropping low. "Listen carefully, human. If you're hiding something, now's your chance to speak. You've heard of Project Lumen, haven't you?" The words hit him like a punch. He tried not to show it, but the captain saw the flicker in his eyes. "Ah," the captain said coldly. "So you do know." Eli's mind raced. How much did they know? How long had they been monitoring him? The captain gestured toward a display on the wall, showing a flickering image from Deck 9. The hatch he'd opened. The faint blue glow leaking from beneath. "We've already sent a message to command," the captain said. "They're sending retrieval units. If that creature is still on board, we'll find it." Creature. The word made Eli's blood boil. "She's not a creature," he said before he could stop himself. The captain's head snapped up. "She?" Silence fell across the room. Eli forced a laugh, trying to cover. "Figure of speech, sir. Just saying if something's down there." "Enough," the captain snapped. "You're confined to quarters until further notice." 2 guards grabbed his arms, dragging him toward the exit as they led him away. Eli looked at the captain one last time and muttered under his breath, "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Back in his room, they sealed the door with a magnetic lock. Eli sat down, pretending to slump in defeat. When the footsteps faded, he stood quickly and went to the vent. "Hey," he whispered, "you okay?" A faint voice answered from the dark. "They come for me again?" "Not yet," he said, "but they will. We have to move." The cube glowed brighter, reacting to her fear. Suddenly, the lights flickered, alarms blaring through the station. "Warning! Unauthorized shuttle approaching." Docking sequence override detected. Eli's heart stopped. Someone was coming from outside. The girl crawled out of the vent, her eyes wide, glowing fiercely now. "They find me," she whispered, voice trembling. "They come." Eli grabbed his tools, tossed them into a bag, and pulled open the emergency duct under his floor. "Come on," he said, "we're getting out of here." She hesitated, looking up at him with fear and trust tangled in her eyes. "You help me again?" Eli gave a small nod. "Yeah, kid. I started this. I'll finish it." They crawled through the narrow tunnels, the hum of engines echoing around them. Above, they heard boots stomping, radios crackling, search teams moving fast. Eli took the lead, guiding her toward the reactor bay. It was the one place scanners struggled to reach because of radiation shielding. When they reached the main duct, she stopped and touched the wall. The metal flickered faintly. Responding to her touch, lights turned off behind them, sealing their path with darkness. "You did that?" Eli whispered, amazed. She nodded weakly. Hide trail." He smiled. "Good. Keep doing that." They reached a maintenance ladder leading to the cargo bay. Above them, voices shouted orders. "Check every hatch." "The hybrid is alive!" Hybrid, that word again. Eli looked down at her, this small trembling being who looked more afraid than dangerous. "She's just a child," he muttered, anger rising in his chest. "Why are they hunting you?" Before she could answer, a loud crash echoed. One of the vents burst open behind them. Search drones hovered in, red lights sweeping the tunnel. Eli grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her up the ladder. "Go! Move!" he shouted. Blaster fire sparked off the metal walls as they climbed. They burst into the cargo bay just as the alarms turned red. The girl stumbled, gasping for air. Eli pulled her behind a crate, his heart racing through the blast window. He saw a massive shadow outside, a ship docking, black and sleek, not from their fleet, and as its engines roared, Eli whispered to himself, "Whoever they are, they're not here to talk." The whole station shook as the black ship docked with a thunderous hiss of pressure. Lights flickered red, alarms screamed through every deck, and voices shouted over the comms. Eli ducked behind a container, holding the trembling alien girl close. Her faint blue glow pulsed faster, like a heartbeat trying to keep up with panic. He whispered, "Don't move, don't make a sound." She nodded, clutching the cube tightly to her chest. Above them, metallic boots thundered across the corridors. "Secure Deck 9. The target is small, organic metal hybrid." A voice barked through the comm. Eli's jaw clenched. They weren't just soldiers, they were hunters, and the girl, this fragile being who looked more human than alien, was their prey. He peeked around the corner and spotted two of them entering the bay. Their suits were sleek, black, and marked with the emblem of the Orion Command. The same name burned into the hatch he had opened, Project Lumen. He whispered under his breath. The words made the girl flinch, her eyes wide with recognition. "You know?" she asked softly, voice glitching between fear and hope. Eli shook his head, whispering, "I don't know enough. But I'm about to." He looked around, spotting an access terminal half buried under crates. It was old, probably unused for years, but still had power. He motioned for her to stay hidden and crawled toward it. Every sound felt too loud in the silence between alarms. The terminal flickered to life with a weak hum. He bypassed the lock, hands moving fast across the screen. After a minute, he found what he was looking for. Restricted archives, sealed decades ago. His heart pounded as he forced the encryption open. Words began scrolling across the display. Project Lumen, classified objective. Create a self-evolving life form combining human adaptability with alien energy cores. Purpose, terraform and repair destroyed worlds after the Orion Wars. Status, terminated after incident on Colony Theta 9. All surviving prototypes, neutralized. Eli froze. Reading the next line, exception detected. Specimen L01 escaped destruction. Last recorded coordinates unknown. He looked toward the girl, her face half hidden in shadow. "You're L01, he whispered. "You're the one they couldn't kill." Her eyes shimmered, tears gathering. "They destroy." "All, my mother." "Help me hide," she said softly, her words heavy with pain. Eli felt his throat tighten. "So she put you under the station," he murmured, realizing the truth. Her mother must have worked on the project. One of the scientists who couldn't bear to see her child destroyed. She saved me, the girl whispered, touching the cube. Put memories. In here, all gone now. Only this left. Suddenly, the terminal beeped, a warning flash on the screen. Intrusion detected, trace initiated. Eli cursed under his breath, pulling out the data core. They're tracing this terminal. He yanked the power cable out just as static filled the air. Above them, the black armored soldiers turned their heads, their scanners blinking red. Sector 3. Movement detected, one said coldly. Eli grabbed the girl's hand, whispering, "Run!" They sprinted between containers as the sound of energy rifles cracked through the air. Bolts of plasma exploded around them, scorching metal. Eli ducked behind a lift shaft, breathing hard. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll box us in." The girl looked at him, her small voice trembling. "You? Trust me?" He nodded without hesitation. Her eyes glowed brighter, and she pressed her palm against the floor. For a moment, everything went still. Then the lights in the cargo bay flickered and shut off completely. Plunging the area into darkness, the soldiers shouted in confusion. Their scanners disrupted by static interference. Eli stared in disbelief. "You just killed the power?" She nodded weakly, her voice faint. "I speak to the station. It listens, using the cover of darkness." They slipped into a maintenance tunnel leading to the reactor bay. Eli carried her when she stumbled, her body trembling from exhaustion. The reactor's glow painted everything blue as they entered. It was quiet here. No patrols, no alarms, just the deep hum of energy pulsing through the walls. He set her down gently and connected his wrist console to the reactor control screen. "If I can send a signal from here, maybe I can call for help," he said. But when he opened the communications log, his blood ran cold. There were messages already sent, to Orion Command marked with his ID. He hadn't sent them. Someone had been using his credentials to make it look like he was helping them. He slammed the console in frustration. "They set me up. They made me look like the one who called them here." The girl reached out, touching his arm gently. Her touch felt warm, calm, grounding. "Not your fault," she said softly. "They fear what they made." He looked at her, eyes narrowing with resolve. "Then we'll show them why they should have never tried to play gods," he said. "We'll expose everything." Her cube glowed again, projecting a new pattern. Data fragments, images of Earth, destroyed colonies, and the original scientists, and among them, a woman who looked just like her, older, wiser, smiling sadly at the camera. "My mother," she whispered. Eli stared at the image, realizing how deep this went. "They didn't just create you," he said quietly. "They created hope and then tried to bury it." Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life again. A cold voice filled the reactor bay. "Eli Ward, surrender the hybrid immediately. You are surrounded." Eli glanced up at the blinking lights, motion sensors already detecting them. He turned to the girl and said firmly, "Stay close. Whatever happens next, we fight together." The reactor hummed louder. The blue glow brightened around them, and for the first time, the girl, Lumen, looked unafraid. Her voice steady, calm, almost human. "Yes, human," she whispered. "We fight together." The reactor bay shook as the soldiers closed in from every corridor. Warning lights flashed red across the walls, and the floor vibrated with the thrum of charging plasma rifles. Eli's pulse raced. He could hear them outside, sealing exits one by one. Lumen stood beside him, small and fragile, her hands glowing faint blue as if ready to speak to the machines again. He crouched beside her, whispering, "We've only got one way out, through the launch tubes." Her eyes widened. "Launch tubes? Full of fire." He gave a faint grin. "Yeah, well, we don't have much choice." He opened a maintenance panel and began typing fast. Overriding safety locks, sparks flew from the screen, and the heavy blast door rumbled open, revealing a narrow tunnel lined with power coils. Hot wind blew through it. Carrying the deep roar of engines spinning below, Lumen hesitated, the heat shimmering over her silver-marked skin. Eli reached out a hand. "Trust me, kid. I'll get us both out." She looked up at him, eyes uncertain but brave, then nodded and took his hand. They ran through the tunnel just as the soldiers burst into the bay behind them. "Stop them!" a voice shouted. Blaster fire echoed, burning holes through the walls. Eli dove into a side duct, pulling Lumen close as plasma bolts lit up the passage. The tunnel rattled under the impact, metal glowing red-hot. When the shooting paused, he whispered, "Go now." They crawled through the service shaft until they reached the secondary hangar. a forgotten deck once used for waste transport. Dust floated like mist in the air, and an old shuttle sat in the corner, half broken but still intact. It was small, built for two at most. Eli rushed to the cockpit. Flipping switches, nothing happened. No power, he muttered. Slamming his fist on the console, Lumen stepped beside him. Pressing her hand to the controls, a faint hum filled the room. And the lights flickered to life. The ship responded to her touch as if it recognized her. Okay, Eli said, stunned. You really are full of surprises. The hangar doors began to open, metal grinding and shrieking. Outside, the black Orion warship loomed like a monster. Eli climbed into the pilot's seat and hit the thrusters. The shuttle jerked violently, struggling to lift. Come on, come on, he muttered, pulling the controls hard. Then the engines roared, and the shuttle burst from the hangar, shooting into open space behind them. Beams of energy streaked past the windows. The Orion ship had spotted them, its cannons blazing. Eli spun the shuttle through the crossfire, alarm screaming as shields collapsed. Hang on, he shouted. The ship shook violently as a blast grazed the hull, sparks flying through the cabin. Lumen clung to the console, her voice calm but determined. I can fly better. Before he could protest, she touched the control screen again, her fingers melting into the interface. Her eyes went pure white, and suddenly the shuttle responded with impossible precision. It darted between enemy fire like a living creature. Twisting through the asteroid belt ahead, Eli stared in awe. You're part of it. You're connected to the ship. She didn't answer. Her voice was inside the system now, echoing through the speakers. I was born for this, she said softly. To heal. To guide, to save. Through the viewport, the asteroid field glowed with static light. Behind them, the Orion ship crashed into one of the larger rocks. Exploding in a burst of flame, Eli laughed breathlessly. Remind me never to doubt you again. But their victory was short-lived. The shuttle's power core flickered, drained by her merging with the system. Lumen's voice trembled. I can't hold long. Energy fading. Eli checked the readings. Everything was overheating. Hold on, he said. There's an old relay station ahead. We'll land there. They coasted toward the silent station, drifting near a dying sun. It was ancient, forgotten, a ghost from a war long past. Eli guided the shuttle to a soft landing, sparks trailing behind them. The airlock hissed open and they stepped inside, the cold biting through their suits. The place was filled with dust and broken screens, yet one console still blinked faintly with life. Lumen walked toward it, her cube glowing brighter than before. She placed it on the terminal, and the station hummed like a heartbeat returning after years of silence. Data filled the screens, records, names, faces, documents from Project Lumen. Eli read them, eyes wide. The files spoke of Earth's last desperate act before the Orion Wars ended. They had built her kind not as a weapon but as saviors, artificial life capable of rebuilding shattered planets and purifying toxic worlds. But when the Coalition found out, they called it abomination and wiped them out. Eli looked at her, voice soft. You were never a threat. You were hope. Lumen's eyes shimmered. My mother said same, she whispered, but they feared light. He touched her shoulder gently. Then we'll show them what light really means. Suddenly, the console beeped, a transmission trying to connect. A distorted voice came through, Elzo-1, alive. Lumen's head snapped up. Mother? She gasped, tears forming. But the signal broke apart. Dissolving into static, Eli tried to stabilize it, but the energy surge overloaded the systems. The lights flickered out, plunging them into the soft glow of the cube again. Then the main display lit up one last time, showing a single line of code. When light meets dark, truth awakens. Eli stared at it, realization dawning. She left you something. A message, he said. Lumen looked at him, eyes wide and full of purpose. We go. Where sun dies, she whispered. Pointing to the dying star outside, Eli turned toward the viewport, watching solar flares ripple like fire across the void. That's where we'll find your answers, he said quietly. And somewhere deep inside the dark, beyond the reach of the Orion fleet, the truth of Project Lumen waited to be awakened. The dying sun loomed ahead, its fading light spilling across the silent relay station like the last breath of an old god. Eli stood by the viewport, staring at the orange flares twisting and curling through the black void. Every few seconds, a deep rumble shook the structure, the star pulling the station closer with its dying gravity. Beside him, Lumen sat quietly, her small fingers tracing the glowing cube. The faint blue light from it pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. As if alive, as if listening, Eli turned toward her, voice low. "You sure this is where your mother wanted us to go?" She nodded softly, her eyes glowing faintly. "This is where she ended. She left truth here." Eli sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "We're gonna melt if we get much closer." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Not melt, wake." Before he could ask what she meant, the cube rose gently from her hands, floating in the air between them. Its light brightened until the whole chamber shimmered with blue waves. Lines of code, images, and sounds filled the air like ghosts. Recordings of scientists, laboratories, laughter, fear, explosions. Then a woman's voice echoed softly, calm and gentle. "If you are hearing this, then my daughter has survived," Lumen gasped. "Mother!" The hologram of a woman appeared, tall, graceful, her skin silver like Lumen's, but her eyes warm and human. Eli stepped back, eyes wide. The recording continued. "They wanted to destroy you, my child. They feared what you could become. But you were never their weapon. You were light, born to restore what war destroyed." The image flickered as the woman's tone grew weaker. "I hid you under the mining station because it was built upon the ruins of the first Lumen reactor. You carry within you the code to reawaken it, to bring life where only death remains." The hologram faded, leaving only the cube's glow. Eli swallowed hard. "So that's it? That's why they want you. They're afraid you'll bring back what they erased." Lumen looked down, voice trembling. "They want control. If I wake the light, it changes all, humans, aliens, everything." Eli stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "Then we make sure it changes things for the better." The floor suddenly trembled violently. The dying sun flared, sending shockwaves that rattled the metal walls. Outside, the darkness split open as multiple warships dropped out of hyperspace. Orion insignias glinted on their hulls, surrounding the station like vultures. Through the intercom, a cold voice echoed, "This is Commander Varn of Orion Command. Hand over specimen L01 immediately or we open fire." Eli clenched his jaw, looking at Lumen. "They found us," she nodded, eyes glowing brighter. "They always find light." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Then let's blind them with it." He ran to the control terminal, frantically typing. "We can use the old energy core beneath the reactor to supercharge your cube. Wake it fully." "But the sun," she said quietly. "It dying. Unstable." Eli looked back at her. "Then we give it one last reason to shine." The ships outside opened fire, bolts of plasma tearing through the station's outer walls. Sparks showered the chamber, alarms blared, metal screamed. Eli grabbed a cable, connected it to the cube, and shouted, "Now, Lumen, do it." She placed her small hands on the console, eyes going completely white. Light surged through her body, spreading across the room like veins of lightning. The entire station began to glow, its old systems roaring back to life after centuries of silence outside. The warships hesitated as a massive pulse of blue light expanded from the dying sun. Lumen's voice echoed through the air, soft yet powerful. They tried to silence creation, but light remembers. Her body began to dissolve into streams of energy, merging with the cube, with the station, with the sun itself. Eli reached for her, shouting, "Lumen, stop! You'll burn yourself out." She turned her fading face toward him, smiling softly. "No, human, I'm going home." A burst of pure energy exploded from the core, engulfing the station in radiant light. The Orion ships were thrown backward. Their systems fried, the dying sun, instead of collapsing, stabilized, its fading color turning from red to brilliant gold. New light spread across the system, awakening dead satellites, barren moons, and forgotten ships. Eli shielded his eyes as the blinding glow filled everything. Then silence. When he opened his eyes, he was floating in the wreckage, his suit's oxygen warning blinking. The station was gone, replaced by a sphere of glowing energy orbiting the revived sun. He looked around wildly, whispering, "Lumen?" For a moment there was nothing, then a faint, gentle voice whispered through his calm, "I am here, human. I am the light now." He felt warmth spread through his chest, the emptiness replaced with peace. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved them. Saved all of us." Her voice smiled. "You saved me first. As his pod drifted toward the light, he saw the new star shining brighter than any other in the sector. In the reports that followed, they called it the dawn of Lumen, a miracle born from the ruins of fear, and in time, every world, human and alien alike, spoke of the man who opened a hatch and found not a monster, but a miracle. A human engineer who saw light in the dark and protected it until it became a new sun. Eli Ward's name became legend, and the last words of the recording he left behind were simple. She wasn't built to destroy. She was built to remind us hope still breathes in the dark.